Hello, I'm Cedric Placentino and I'm here in Belgium in the small village of Ohain. It's in the commune of Lannes, not so far from Brussels. And the street name that you see above my head is the name Avenue Pierre Minuit. It's the only name, Pierre Minuit, that you can find in Belgium, in a street name named after Pierre Minuit. Who was Pierre Minuit? Well, in fact, he was a man who lived in the 17th century and most probably did not come from this area of Belgium. It was believed up until a few decades that he was from this area, but apparently he came from Tournai, that is a city in the western part of the country of Belgium. But in fact, he never lived in Belgium. In fact, he was not even born in Belgium. His parents had to flee what was then the southern Netherlands because they were Protestants, and Protestants were persecuted in Belgium, and so they fled to Germany in order to be able to worship freely God. Pierre Minuit would later on move to the Netherlands, and he will become one among some of the first settlers of the Dutch colonies in America, in what became the New Amsterdam, what would later become New York. And Pierre Minuit, in fact, became the governor of the New Amsterdam. And he would start dealing with the people who were then called the Indians, that is the autochthone, in a different way than what had been done up until then. In fact, Pierre Minuit would begin to trade with the Indians and to buy lands from them instead of seizing lands as it was done usually by the Europeans, the first Europeans who moved to America at the time, in particular the Spaniards. Pierre Minuit did not want to seize lands, but to buy lands from them. Why did he want that? Well, that's because Pierre Minuit, in fact, was a Bible-believing Christian. He believed that every man was made in the image of God, and therefore we had no right to seize lands from other people, but rather to trade. Trade was a way to deal with people as equals. That was the way Pierre Minuit inaugurated a new way of dealing with the people in America. It didn't go quite well with Pierre Minuit in America. His way of governing the colony came against the interests of the West India Company, the Dutch West India Company, so he was kicked out. He would later on work for the Kingdom of Sweden, where he would discover what would later become the Delaware, which became first a colony of Sweden, and finally he would die after his boat capsized near the island of St. Christopher, St. Kitts nowadays, in the Caribbean islands. But Pierre Minuit, even though he is not well remembered here in Europe, is a man who ought to be remembered, not just in Belgium, but also in Europe, and in particular in America. His vision was a biblical vision. He had a biblical understanding of people and a biblical understanding of how to build the colonies in America. I'm Cedric Placentino. See you next time in another place in Europe.